Would you please open your Bible to Luke chapter 6 this morning? Luke chapter 6. In the last several weeks, we've spoken of God, of who He is, His character, the observable qualities that we can see in Him and that Scripture makes us aware of, His all-knowing nature. It's being present everywhere. It's holiness. It's goodness. His self-existence. He didn't need anyone to create Him. He's God. He stands above everything. Unlike anything or anyone else we know. I just pray that there's been a growing sense of awareness of living in the presence of Almighty God in your heart, as there has in mine in the last few weeks. Then we begin talking about the implications of that everything we have belongs to Him, as we saw 2 weeks ago with Abraham, taking his son and placing him upon an altar, saying, God, everything I have is yours. I'll obey you completely. Thinking of the need for reviving of the hearts, drawing close to you. It's evidence in the Old Testament last week. And I prayed this week a lot about what to share with you. And what came to mind, I suppose, is rather simple. There's a temptation when we deal with familiar concepts and passages to say, oh yeah, I've heard that before. And we have, many, many times. But the words of Jesus are so radical. They are so counterculture. They're so transformational. That my prayer is we won't say, yes, I already knew that. But that there will be a newness and a freshness of understanding this great being, God, who is my Father. How then should I live? And Jesus gave a lot of instruction to answer that question and to fill in the gaps. Luke chapter 6 is chiefly about interacting with other people. How knowing God and truly loving Him will impact the way that I get along with others. Most of the conflict that we experience in life comes from relationships with other people. Amen? I mean, there's inner conflict sometimes. You know, when I have to make a decision or wrestling with something, or perhaps I'm being convicted over sin or something I'm not sure about. But a good bit of the conflict in my life is relating to other people. And so Jesus addresses that very, very clearly. In Luke chapter 6, the key verse that I would like to put before you for your consideration today is verse 31. And we're going to read it first because it's the main idea. And then we'll read the whole passage in context. And just as you want men to do to you, you also do to them likewise. Treat other people, the NASB says, the way you want to be treated. I've said to classrooms of guys and gals on Wednesdays on several occasions, can you imagine how different the world would be if everyone practiced that simple direction from God? Can you? Sometimes when we quote the verse, it's to another person who has just done something that we don't care about. And I said, do you know the Bible says that you should do unto others what you want them to do unto you? What you just did to me is not what I want done to me. So it's important that you know that verse so that you will do what I want, treat me good, and I will have an easy life and be happy and actually kind of be in control of everything and everything like that because Jesus said so. And it's a way exaggerated, of course. None of us would ever say that out loud, by the way. Kind of think it sometimes. How about you? Man, some folks are just hard to get along with. A lot of things happen that are offensive or difficult. Usually not from my close friends. You know? I mean, because if they act like that way, they aren't my friends anymore. So, I get some new ones. And it's kind of easy to respond to the people who care about you and show it and are kind in some loving ways. But what about the people that aren't? That's the big question, isn't it? We've been called to be the children of God. And in so doing, to look like our Father. People should see a family resemblance. Certain people I meet, maybe see a child as they grow. Boy, I can tell whose child you are. You look a lot like your dad. Or you look a lot like your mom. I can see that family resemblance. Or, are you so-and-so's little brother or sister? Because you sure look like you might be. Family resemblance, when we're very young, we might kind of say, oh man, I'm not sure I like that idea very much, But truth is, it's part of God's stamp upon you. What he's done, what he's given you, it should be embraced. I was talking with one of the guys yesterday that came to help set up the chairs and tables down the Family Life Center, and we were just talking, and he was talking about how as we were working together, he just expressed his gratitude that his dad taught him the value of hard work in conversation. And, and I said, you know what? We both had the great advantage of having wonderful parents. I did not think that when I was in sixth grade. And Dad said, come on, get out of the house. It's time to go get some work done. I thought he was like probably not the meanest, but in the top 10 meanest guys on the planet, all right? On those days, when I would rather do something else, And I look back and I realize, wow, what a favor he did by teaching me important values. Underappreciated then, highly valued today. And God wants us to see our Father. He is our Father. He's redeemed you, bought you with a price, invited you to be his child, made you a brother to Jesus, a joint heir, put you in the will, if you would, joint heirs with Christ. That's all pretty heady stuff. What a privilege. So then, what can I purposefully do to live out my part in the family? Well, Luke chapter 6 provides some answers to that. Let's start reading in verse 27. But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, and pray for those who spitefully use you. To him who strikes you on one cheek, offer the other also. And from him who takes away your cloak, do not withhold your tunic either. Give to everyone who asks of you. And from him who takes away your goods, do not ask them back. And just as you want men to do to you, you also do to them likewise. But if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you hope to receive back, what credit is that to you? For even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much back. But love your enemies. Do good and lend, hoping for nothing in return. And your reward will be great. And you will be sons of the Most High. For he is kind to the unthankful and evil. Therefore, be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Some of you I know really well. Some are more acquaintances. Maybe we haven't known each other very long. But I want you to know that I love you. And I want you to know that we are related. And that we're brothers and sisters. And for the most part, it's easy to love you. To be kind. The sense of family that we have. Of unity and belonging. And it's just great. It's out of the ordinary. It's supernatural, actually. Living in relationship with each other. Whether it's here or whether it's elsewhere there, every now and then, we run into somebody who isn't nearly so kind, don't we? In the workplace, the conflicts, two people went their way and they don't get along with each other. Fortunately, maybe in families. Maybe we run into those who react against something we say or something we've done, and maybe they're not even reacting to anything about us. They're just being self-centered. And in the midst of their sin and self-centeredness, we're peripheral damage. For the most part, my friends and the people I know well, pretty easy to be kind, to be loving, to help, there's people around here would give you the shirt off their back. I know that. I remember that happened one time. I know I told the story then, but it's been a while. I'm at a baptism. And downstairs where we dress in the restroom we use for that, I was down there, changed to my baptismal robe as it did some of the fellows who were being baptized. And hanging there was a small white choir robe used a long time ago for children, because we have some for adults, and young man went in there, and I said, your white robe will be hanging on the hanger, just go in there and get changed. He went in and came back out, and we came up and got in the water, and, I held him under and brought him back up again. Went downstairs, and it was only then that I realized that he did not get his baptismal robe. He got my white dress shirt that was hanging there. And had worn that in the water. And it's time for me to come upstairs and preach the second service. I had no idea where to put my tie without a shirt, it's like weird. I wasn't sure what to do. I was pretty sure I didn't want to be up here without a shirt. And so I stepped out the hall. A fellow was running by. I explained to him quickly my dilemma. He took the shirt off his back, handed it to me, and said, go ahead, put this on, Pastor. I came up and preached in his shirt. He went home without one. So I will guarantee you, there are people around here who would give you the shirt off their back. Somebody said, I don't know where those kind of expressions originated. It started that day in the basement at Shiloh. But the spirit of generosity and helpfulness and such, that they're pretty easy with the people we know and trust. At least easier. But there are a lot of folks who aren't as easy to get along with. And sometimes they are our brothers and sisters. Sometimes we have a misunderstanding or a difference of opinion, and one of us says something that is not very kind, and the other person says, wow, man, And then we kind of react and we get upset and, and it's pretty obvious that Jesus has called us to love one another, to love your neighbor as yourself. And then he gets to this pesky passage and says, and even love your enemies. Those first two aren't too hard most days. That last one, I don't have it in me. How about you? I'm not made that way. My natural reaction to a circumstance like that, of course, is to react in anger, give them a piece of my mind that I will be missing later on, most likely, or to just be hurt, get quiet, withdraw. I'm not talking to them anymore because they hurt me, or some combination of those emotions, or something very near to them. Jesus, in the last verse that we read, says, therefore be merciful just as your Father is merciful. You begin to look like him when you break those patterns. You don't act like everybody else acts. You act more like him. So there's a good question to ask yourself. How would I want to be treated? How would I like that person to behave towards me? Once that question is answered, it answers the next question. How should I treat them? Several people are listed here. Enemies, love them. Haters, do good to them. Cursers, bless them. Those who are spiteful, pray for them. Those who are violent, take their best shot and don't defend yourself. Be generous, giving, Christ-like. That's a long, hard list. That's a long, hard list. Somebody hates you, my response is, get angry or withdraw. Someone curses at you, just don't have anything more to do with that ugly son of God. They're spiteful, despising you, looking down on you, criticizing you, and in many, many different ways. I want to fight back. They're violent. First of all, if they hit you on one cheek, you're slow. You ought to duck that thing, I would think. Maybe you didn't see it coming. Many of you know Robert M. Bland. One of the guys I've looked up to my whole life, long before Teen Missions was founded. Oh my, which next year will be 50 years ago. Okay, not that long before Teen Missions was founded. Actually, probably just before. He was our national youth leader for all of Christian Union. And we had retreats where we'd go, and he'd put together the program, and they were creative and fun. And youth groups would come from all over the country to those things. And I know it's hard to picture today, but there'd be 200, 250 kids who'd show up because you just knew when Mr. Bland was in charge, Pastor Bland, then it's going to be a good retreat. And it was spiritually, and we did weird stuff, you know. We all made little carts and raced them through the mud with, teen-powered carts, one pulling, two pushing, and one riding. Got all covered in mud and made 100-gallon milkshakes and 6 feet wide hamburgers and pizzas. And, you always had some fun thing going on. And then there'd be competitions and a lot of fun and Bible quizzing and some speakers who really challenged your heart. So I knew him long before the ministry of Teen Missions began. I went there as a youth, having just graduated from high school in 1974, and I've always remembered one of the stories he told us. He not only wanted to impact around the world, missions. He wanted to impact the neighborhood they lived in. So it was kind of a little bit of an economically disadvantaged neighborhood where they had their first office. And so he, in the backyard of the office building, started a children's ministry every week. He called it the Treehouse Gang. And I'm not sure if they actually had a treehouse or just called it that, but so a lot of kids would come from the neighborhood, and he'd go around to every house and invite them and give something free to the kids and say, come on down Tuesday after school, we're going to be back here. And they have a lot of kids coming in. So one day he was teaching from this passage. And one young man stood up and he said, sir, do you believe what you just told us? Yes, I do. And he said, I just did not anticipate what was coming at all. And he was quick. He reached out and just whacked me right across the face. And he said, I stood there. Man, my face got red, my fists clenched, and I would have knocked that little kid down so bad. And he said, I knew every other kid in the room was watching to see my reaction. Does this guy really believe what he says? So he said, I turned around and said, go ahead, buddy. And he hit me again. And he said, I thought I'd better put an end to this because they were lining up to take turns. The application of that probably won't always be as literal as that. But what if it applies to the person who says mean things to you and or about you, and you refuse to defend yourself, and instead respond with kindness? I hope that your turn of the other cheek will be more metaphorical than literally, but it's an important principle. It's a concept that's really important. Because who does that? Except for Jesus and people who are becoming like him. There's nothing that God asks of us or commands us in this passage through his son that Jesus himself didn't demonstrate. You remember the cross. Those who beat him during his ministry, those who lied about him, who brought false accusations, who insulted him in every manner, taunted. And he in meekness responded, submitted to all of it. Because he was on a mission. His mission was to demonstrate his Father's love. Father, forgive them. I don't understand what they're doing. You and I can become like that. Not through our strength or power. I don't have it in me. I doubt if you do either. But being transformed by the power of God. It's not only possible, it is commonplace for those who really know him and love him to remember that when they asked Jesus, what's the most important commandment? He said, love God with everything you've got and love your neighbor as yourself, which is another way of saying treat other people the way you want to be treated. Love them like you want to be loved. Yes. That's radical. Sometimes when we have conflict, a person says or does something, we react in a certain way, and then they do this other thing, and then we gossip about them, and then they withdraw from us, and then I have a divided relationship, and down deep inside I see about them, and they tell everybody how bad we are. And it's like the steps to a well-known dance that we keep doing, and we repeat it over and over and over again until everybody's dancing in a way that destroys lives, damages relationships, and takes away the glory that should be God's. What if one person refuses to step? You look weird trying to dance alone. What if they take their shot and you're like Jesus? That'll make them wonder. things might actually change. Now, you and I cannot say, well, I tried that once and he was still a jerk, so I'm not doing that anymore. I don't have that privilege. I don't have that choice. It's not I'm doing this to manipulate you so that you change. It is I am changing so I can obey my Father, and he gets glory no matter what you do. I'm just going to be more like Dad. I want to look like him. I want to see the way he sees. I want to have his eyes. I want to have a heart like his. I want my mind to be renewed. Well, remove the old one, put it, what, I don't know. Changed. Sometimes I act like mine's been removed. I don't know, I will admit it. Okay? Changed, transformed, so that I have the mind of Christ in me and I think more like him. And when those first reactions, responses come up in me, I have a choice. And I say, no, I'm going to recognize that that's not God honoring. And more than anything else, I want him to be honored because he is so great. I want to look like my dad. I want to behave like him. I want to act like him. I want to be like him if I ever grow up. I've got a lot of growing to do, and I'll bet you probably would agree. But when I grow up, Father, I want to be just like you. I pray that that will become more and more true in each of our hearts and lives. I might give you an opportunity to share who Christ is and what he means to you. It might be that they would stop and change, begin to reflect. It will definitely be that your Father gets glorified and that you earn his smile by obedience. And you will prove that you love him because he that loves me will keep my commandments. Verse 32 through 34 says, what reward do you have if you do that to people who are nice to you? Because everybody does that. That's not out of the ordinary. But verse 35 through 36. Here's where it gets down to what really counts. As you love your enemies, do good, lend to those hoping for nothing in return. Your reward will be great. You'll be the sons of the Most High. For he is kind to the unthankful and evil. Therefore be merciful just as your Father also is merciful. Yeah, but you don't know the people I have to deal with. No, I don't. I don't care. It'll make a difference who they are. God's commandment applies. Yep. Don't let your butts get in the way. Just surrender and say, God, I'm yours. I am your child. Give me the strength and the power to live like it. I don't have it within me. It's so contrary to my nature. But I thank you. When I come to you and I've confessed my sin and asked for your forgiveness, I'm born into your family and I get a new nature. The old one still wants to jump up and be prevalent and tell me what to do. And I'm going to take that thing and put it to death. I want it nailed to a cross, laid on an altar. It keeps crawling back, but I'm going to keep putting it back. Because, Lord, I want to be like you. Now, how can you apply that this week? I'll bet some of you something's already come to mind. If it doesn't, it will soon. You might already be contemplating a person that's been hard to get along with, or a circumstance that's divided, or This is like some of those most practical teaching you could ever get. Take this, read it, meditate on it, and pray, God, pray through it. God, I pray that you will cause me to love people the way that you love, not only my friends and the people I care about right now, but my enemies as well. God, I pray that when someone curses me, when they say evil things about me to others, when that gets back to me, and I know rather than getting all angry or upset and defending myself, Lord, I pray that you will cause me to love the way you love and to bless them and look for ways that I can meet needs in their lives and be good to them and honor them, because I know that that is what you would do. In fact, I know that is what you do, because you've shown your mercy to me. God, would you please guide me the next time that I get a personal attack, whether it's a slap across the cheek or whether it's a verbal one, I pray that I will turn the other cheek. I pray that I will not be resistant. I will not take up self-defense, because you are better at defending me than I could ever be. Vengeance is yours, O God. You've said so, you shall repay. So I have no need to judge and execute judgment and vengeance upon that person. That's your job, not mine. Please give me the heart and the strength to do so. Today I want to stand up. I want to be different. If there's somebody at work I haven't gotten along with and we've had conflict from time to time, I pray that today when I go in, I can change the channel, refuse to dance the dance, and I will live and look and act more like Jesus. And look for the look of confusion on their face for your glory, because you're a great God. I'm not doing it for reward. I'm just doing it because you say to, and because I love you. But I thank you. You've promised reward to those who are faithful. And I will turn my heart towards you and live in you today and walk in a way that's different. Remember we said that a few weeks ago? God is holy. Don't be like everybody else. Be holy as he is holy. Be transformed so that quality of holiness, that righteousness that he's building shines through for his glory, not for yours.